Hello and welcome to the Mixtape podcast, where every week I take a deep dive into my guests' musical influences and inspirations by asking them to make up an imaginary mixtape. They'll have 6 track choices and they'll have to pick from categories including their favourite cover version, a song they wish they could play to their 18-year-old selves, a song for a romantic interest, and a song they sing in the car or the shower. If you're enjoying these episodes, then please feel free to go to the top of the page, rate the podcast 5 stars, or give us a follow on social media at the Mixtape Podcast and Radio Show. And you can discover over 100 archive episodes just by visiting themixtapepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hello and welcome to today's mixtape, and this week on the show, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome Mama Kin. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm really well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show and making the time. Really appreciate it. So we're talking about Promises, new album out now on all the streaming platforms, and I did think I saw some pre-order for vinyl as well. Before we get to talking about the album and stuff, I was doing a bit of research and reading up as well. From what I understand, you grew up in a really musical environment. What was that like? And I'm also interested to know, how come it took you so long to be putting out music and recording your own music?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I was youngest of 6 kids, and by a long way. And my brothers and sisters had a family band in full swing by the time I was born. And my dad was like a frustrated musician who was living vicariously through his children, luckily for us. But so as immigrants, though, our family as musicians also took on the role of being the cornerstone, the soundtrack to every single thing that happened. The baptisms, the weddings, the engagement parties, the wakes, the 21st, the 50th. And then all the dinner dances that happened to keep the Maltese community emboldened and connected while integrating into this new community. Why did it take me so long? I really love this question because I made a decision. I think sometimes we make stories up when we're kids, and sometimes we learn to let them go, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes they just become burrowed in and become behaviours. And the decision that I had made was that my brothers were extremely naturally talented musicians, and that I just wasn't, and that I would make a great fool of myself if I ever released my own music. And then I was able to further fortify that story when I met my partner, John Butler, because his way of creating is such a prolific, incredibly intuitive, naturally talented, also he works so hard at it, musician, that I was like, here's more proof. This is what a creative person looks like who should be releasing music. And then there's me, and I do it differently than that. Yeah. And so I just built proof upon proof. But what my heart kept on saying was, you have to do this. And the longer I didn't do it, the more kind of resentment and shadowy kind of fog built and started presenting in actually mental health symptoms of being really depressed or having anxiety or all these things. And it wasn't until I hit the rock bottom of that I realized that the only way was to start embracing this thing that was completely intrinsic, not just to who I am as a person, but in how I take care of myself as a person, and then how I take care of my family, and also how I take care of my kids. It wasn't this and, it was this because it had to collapse for me to realize that I couldn't get away with not doing it anymore, and the excuses and the stories just had to be excavated and shaken up and examined, and then it was really clear that there was no option not to do it anymore. And I say this to musicians who are like, I'm not sure if I should, yet actually to be a muso, you have to get to the point where that's no longer a question. It's not should I or shouldn't I, it's like I can't not. Because that's the level of grit that it takes to be in our music industry, in our music community. It's actually, I can't not. And I'm really glad I reached that point. But it was a harrowing journey at times.
Yeah. I wondered because John strikes me as someone who would be incredibly nurturing and encouraging of anyone's talent, never mind like his partner. Like, was he that person for you, or was it just your perception of him as a musical sort of great that sort of you didn't feel?
The most supportive, championing, co-creator, co-life partner you could ever imagine. The minute he even gets a whiff that someone has a thing that they're into, let alone me or his kids, they're like, oh, you're into this thing, let me help you build a world around it, like with his own hands over and over again. Again, just literally came off a 3.5-month tour on Wednesday, so exhausted. And on Thursday, he was setting up a stage for me for my launch party. And on Friday, he was teching for a filming thing I had to do. Absolutely in tatters and needing his own self-care, but still going, how do I get in and around the thing you're doing? So it was never, ever for lack of support. But my story was so vivid and so dominant that I also trained everybody in my life about how they could collaborate on that story. My training was exact. And I look back now and go, wow, I really did a great job of making sure no one could even bring up my music in front of me without it resulting in what ultimately and ostensibly was a tantrum.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting insight. Thanks for that. That was a fantastic answer to that question. So let's talk about the record now, Promises. I've been enjoying it very much this week. I've been listening to it a lot once I knew that we were going to be sitting down and having a chat. The creative process for this record and your process in general, like, do you have a sort of specific way of working, like with Dingo, or like with lyrics first or melody first or vice versa? Or is it more like a sort of organic, whatever comes to the table, that's what you work on? How's your creative process work?
So, yeah, this album is a Mummakin Spender album, and it's absolutely a co-collaboration between myself and Dingo Spender. And we are so neck deep in deep friending each other. We are like the hardcore friends. We have sat side saddle on or side cart on each other's massive life transformations over and over again, and we have such an incredible friendship. Aside from that, we have a really robust creative practice. We know that what sort of conditions we need to put around us when we need to make work. And then when we get into that position, and for this album, that meant hiring a house in Bailing Up for 5 days, auto reply on the emails, big box of food, big load of wood, lockdown. Yeah. Now, what we do have is creative practice that we can put around the material that's going to come out. And that creative practice is part biohack, part like having writing practices that just allow things to surface and bubble up without having to head front go, I have to write a song about blah. No, we just do a whole lot of creative, almost, hacking to see what's just innately there that might be a surprise. And then we have structure. Then we have this kind of process of pulling those bits out and being like, oh, that's that theme has come up over and over again. What is that? What's that weird collision of words there that keeps coming up? Or what's that thing there? And then we just drill. Then we drill. So we go really wide and then we drill down. And then when we end up with a song, we forensically go over every single line and word and be like, that's a cop-out. We just use that because it rhymes with the previous line. That is not the best thing that could be there. Where are the default lines and where is the excellence? And so I feel I am so proud of this album because it is the most forensic and diligent that we had got an opportunity finally to really just delve into. We started together in 2016 as this collaboration, and that body of work was like a little bit of a handful of my songs and a little bit of a handful of his songs that we then collaborated on. But this work was 100% a co-write, and I believe it really shows. I believe it really shows in where the kind of our work together has come from. So yeah, we have process, and I love that. I love that we can come into a room with nothing and that we can go, cool, let's do this. And then we're going to end up with something that we can extract and make work out of, rather than being like, what's your vibe today? I don't know. I don't really feel like it. Like, we both went into that writing session quite shattered, actually, and quite scattered from our own emotional landscapes. And so it would have been really easy to go, I actually just need a rest, man. Can we just pull out this, but actually the songs ended up giving all this language to our emotional landscapes that we didn't even know was sitting there. We didn't know that was there. And and that's why I love that we have these creative processes, because they create the space for these themes to erupt, to reveal themselves, but then they have this language around them that was like, oh, like when we were writing Promises, Lay Next to Me Darling in a Bed of Snakes, it was like, what the hell is that? What? And it's like stealing like rats and begging like dogs. What are we talking about? It's like, that is a harrowing song about the nature of this relationship that had turned in on itself, like actually turned in on itself. That's hard stuff to write. It's still hard to sing. It's still hard to hear sometimes because it's a confession. But if we'd gone in and been like, let's write a song about the state of our relationships right now, it would have been like, I got no words for that. I got no words for that right now. But yeah, long answer to a short question.
No, again, fantastic answer. That's exactly what I was looking for there. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, you're touring to support the album September, October. The tour dates are up on mamakinspender.love, which is an amazing suffix to your website. I absolutely love that. That's brilliant. I noticed on the website there's no Perth show. All the shows you've got are over East. So are we expecting something like a big announcement later on, or?
Yeah. We are expecting a big announcement. We do have a WA show. We're playing the Wild Village Festival down in Hobarton. There are some big announcements coming that we can't really talk about just yet. But what we are asking from our Perth community and actually from our national community is right now in release week, assuming this is going to air this week.
Yes.
In release week, we are pushing hard to get a chart position for this album. And what a chart position means for us is actually getting us the perspective of this midlife Australian experiences represented in our charts, in our culture. And as our charts have been dominated by international acts, and we're really gunning to actually get ourselves into the charts, Australian charts, the Roots charts, and the actual national charts. And what that means is if people want to get behind that, if people want our stories represented, if they could jump onto our website, mamakinspender.love, and go to the merch store, they can even just buy a digital download for $2.50 from Bandcamp, and that counts as a sale. And if you want, you can order a CD or a vinyl. All of it is really going towards this ambition. And this is the other thing that I've come through with this body of work on this other part of my life as a perimenopausal woman, releasing music from right here at Wallulah, is I'm not afraid to say, hey, I want this. I actually am not afraid of my own ambition anymore. And I spent so many years of my life, and what you were talking about before is like, why didn't I release music? I was frightened of my own ambition. As a woman, as an immigrant, all these things, I was like, you don't get to have it without it being a dirty word. And I'm just not playing that game anymore. And I know there's a lot of women out there and a lot of supportive men out there who really get that and really get this stage of life. And I want our stories to be on the charts. I want them to be reflected nationally. And so that might mean everyone pitching in and buying me half a coffee right now and buying a digital download on Bandcamp. Sorry for the shameless. I'm not sorry for the shameless plug.
It's not though. No, it's not a shameless plug. No, you should never apologise for it, because that's what we're here for. We're here to spread the word of music, and that's the purpose of the chat and the radio show and the podcast and everything else. But I do relate to what you were saying there about coming to it later and stuff. I didn't start doing this until I was 50. The first time I got the opportunity to present a community radio station, and I had no background in media, in broadcasting, nothing whatsoever, just passion for music. And I met someone at a record fair, and he said, we're looking for volunteers at the station. You'd be good. You want to come and do it? And I just went, yes. Awesome. And the moment I pushed the fader up for the first time and started talking, I found my thing. 50 years old.
Hey, Mark, such a cool story, and so aligned to my story, because my first turning point, funnily enough, was deciding to stop saying no and just start saying yes, and to notice how much I was being asked and how much I was blocking what was there. So I love the idea of a story that starts with, and I just said yes. I just said yes once. Sometimes and for me, I just said yes once and everything just started rolling. I've been saying no, and you know what? It takes a lot of energy to resist our own life force. It takes so much. It is so much less energy to be saying yes and dealing with the chaos of a life fulfilled than what it takes to suppress and be in the shadow and be in the shame and be in the resentment. That's a lot of work with no reward. So thank you for saying yes, and thank you for sharing that story. It's a really important story. And also the idea of like, no matter when, if you've said no for 70 years and you say yes for the first time at 70, that's okay. Just say it. What is the thing that we're saying no to about our thing about our lives that we know is central to us? So if we were all just willing to say yes,
it's opened up so many doors for me. I've interviewed idols, heroes, people I had posters of on my wall as a teenager. I've interviewed and got to talk to, and it's just amazing. Like it's been the best thing I've ever done, apart from becoming a dad. It's been the best thing I've ever done with life, and I'll never ever look back. And what it does, because I come to it so late, and I know I've got a finite amount of time to get the most out of it. I just throw so much energy into it, and just try and get as much out of it as I possibly can. Funnily enough, I meant to say to you at the start, I interviewed Nicky last week or the week before.
Oh my God, classic.
That was great chat. Yeah, he was really good. He was really good value.
He's fun, isn't he?
Yeah, no, it was such a good chat. Yeah, it was really fun.
And to
really
speak to that thing that you said about best thing I've ever done other than having kids, it's like right now I've got this kind of meta experience of that because it is the best thing I ever done except for having kids. But it's also like I'm getting to do it with my kids now as adults. Because I said yes when they were still young, my daughter was able to see that it was possible for a woman to be both a mother and an artist, right? And I carved my own path and I said yes and said no to things because I was still a parent, like all of that. But now I've got 2 adult kids. And by chance, Banjo and I both released music on Friday, completely unplanned. And I was like, I don't know if that's ever happened before. A mother and daughter both releasing music on the same day into the same industry, into the same kind of space, contemporary original music that could sit side by side on a playlist in so many ways. And I was just like, that's the win. That's the win for me, is that actually, first of all, that she didn't have to crowbar the door open. She didn't have to beat it down. It's just innate to her that she can have it and she can do it. And that I'm releasing music, she's releasing music, and John's going to be releasing music in a few weeks. Like he's been releasing singles all year as well. So it's just, wow, that is so cool. And then imagine how resentful I would have been had I gotten to this part and I had to start now. It's just like, so whatever that is for you, start now. Whatever age you are, start now. Say yes now. What would it be to say yes now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't put any sort of boundaries on it as well. Like I don't give myself any sort of ceiling. Like I'll take it wherever. Yeah. I have an idea, and I'm friends with Paul from So Far Sounds in Perth, and we met at So Far Sounds, and now we're friends. And I pitched the idea to him a few weeks ago about doing this in front of a live audience, and the songs that you pick, you cover.
Hey, love.
So we're gonna be doing that soon. So yeah, and if you'd have said I was doing that 2 years ago, I'd have. But it's just, as I go on, just confidence grows. And I remember the first time I interviewed someone famous and I was like, I was a gibbering wreck. I was so nervous. And now it's all off a duck's back. Do you know what I mean? I'm not bothered.
So lovely. You only have to do your first time once, don't you? You only have to do your first time once. And then then you're in it. Then you're doing it. Yeah. It's like, but so much about what it takes to do that first time rather than going, let the first pancake be the first pancake. And get on with the batch. You know what I mean?
There's that fantastic quote where you have to make something exist before you can make it good. Like it has to be out there in the world in the first place. And then I've got like my first early interviews on YouTube and stuff. They're so cringe. I look at them and not just the content, but the production values and everything else. But I leave it up there because I look at what I'm putting out now and I just go, look, that's the growth. That's what and it's a good way for me to mark progress. All right, let's get back to you. Sorry.
No, I love it. Love it.
One thing I always ask Perth and WA artists is, just for my own like sort of personal market research, what is your favourite Perth venue as a gig goer and as a performer?
Can I give 2?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
I love Fremantle Arts Centre. I love that there's 3 venues in that space, and I actually love every single one of them. I've had amazing gig experiences in that internal courtyard, in that larger courtyard, and in that big space. I just think that is like such a jewel of a venue, and the people who run it and love it up are just genuinely like, they are arts fanatics. They get it. They love it, and they're here for it, and they're fighting for it. So I love that venue so much. Such a jewel. And you can't go past Mojo's, man.
Everybody says Mojo. So many people.
Such a special room. It's got it's got the tradition, the energy, its journey, how it's grown, how it's picked its kind of britches up over and over again and been like, no, we are dedicated to being a venue, and we're dedicated to being this kind of venue in this town. I just can't go past it. And I love Freo Social. There's so many great rooms. I really love them. But if you would allow me to have two, I'd say those two are just like, I can't imagine this town without them.
Yeah, no, great picks. My first gig in Perth was Fremantle Arts Centre in 2010. When I first came to live here, I saw Angus and Julia Stone. Yeah. That was a great gig. That was so good. That was my first. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like,
I know, yeah.
It's just a
couldn't believe it. We're sitting around all these trees and just on that slope there. Just it's an amazing venue. Absolutely loved it.
This is the Mixtape.
The Mixtape is brought to you in association with Giglist. Giglist is your one-stop shop for all your live events. If you're looking to get out and experience some live music, you can filter by artist, venue, suburb or date. If you are an artist, it will take you less than a minute to list your gig for free on the website. The Mixtape brought to you in association with Giglist. Gigs in a list. All right, I've got a quick fire 5 before we get into the Mixtape track choices. First one, do you have a pre-show ritual?
Yes. It is a real check-in with Dingo, because sometimes we can just be working all the time until we get on stage, and then it's like on stage and they're like, whoa, hey you. So it's actually a really big hug with him, and it's slapping my thighs to release any tension and energy, like pretty hard. And then we do this thing called an Unibandayan. I can't even pronounce it right now, but it's basically this kind of energy thing where you're sucking your diaphragm and hold your breath and lock it all in and release it. And it's just a little thing between the two of us to tune in and also tune into the reverence of what it is, the privilege that and the reverence and the gratitude that people have chosen to spend their time with us. We take that really seriously. We consider stepping onto the stage an act of ceremony in a way. And that doesn't mean that there's no levity to it, but it's a serious, we take people's time, money, energy, focus very seriously, and we intend to do the very best with it.
If you could time travel to see one concert in history, what show would you choose?
Oh, man. That's a hard one off the top of my head. I would go see an Amy Winehouse show.
I saw Amy Winehouse. I was very lucky. Lucky.
Oh, my God. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'd go see one of her really early shows just at the point where she was starting to work with Mark Ronson, and they were maybe even when they were like demoing that album. Just to see it raw and somewhere, and imagine like a bar in New York somewhere, a venue in New York where they were just testing out the tracks. That would be a dream gig.
So good. What is the weirdest thing on your tour rider?
The weirdest thing on my tour rider, it's not that weird. Because I hate waste, because I'm like,
okay,
I really don't like waste, but maybe ginger and honey. I always have to have ginger and honey backstage. We love a bit of tequila. We very rarely end up having much of it. Chips. The weirdest thing, though, is probably how insanely obsessed I am with how many hazelnuts are in my chocolate.
Great answer. What is the most rock star thing you've ever done?
Man, I am so normcore. It's almost embarrassing. The most rock star thing I've ever done. I think the fact that I play drums standing up and is pretty rock. And then I think a couple of times I've been so taken by it that I've actually screamed so loud that I've totally ruined my voice for the rest of the gig. So maybe the most rock star thing I've ever done is actually.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
completely surrendered to the rage and the thing and put my ability to do the gig aside and sacrificed it completely for the feeling in the moment.
Yeah, great one. And finally, who would play you in a movie about your life?
God. Oh my God. I don't have no idea. I don't even know like names of many actors, to be honest. And all the ones I know are really hot. Like I keep thinking about these hot Latino women, but I'm not Latina and I'm also not that hot. So it's like, who would play? I have no idea. I can't even answer that one. Who would play me? God. No idea.
I tell you what, I tell you, I think will be good. I don't know if I can remember her name now, Marie or Maria. She was one of the dark-haired backing singer in the Commitments movie. Have you seen that movie? Do you know that one?
You know what? That is so funny that you mentioned that. I know who you're talking about, I think. Oh, yeah. I know who could play me. The woman that I love, that Irish actor who I absolutely love, who's in Bad Sisters. I actually think she's Bono's daughter from U2. Yeah, she
okay. Yeah.
Love her. But The Commitments, I just thought about that movie the other day and I'm like, I need to rewatch The Commitments, man. That was a banger. So I'm going to put it on my movie list for this week.
Such a good movie. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. All right, let's move into your mixtape track choices then. So track one of your mixtape is, if you were using your mixtape to grab someone's attention, you put your track one on there, you want to draw them in and get them to listen to the rest of your tape, what track would you use for that?
Look, I had Missy Elliott work it, but actually it really depends on who I'm trying to get them to get their attention. So it would either be a Missy Elliott track at that end of the spectrum of work it, or it would be a Gillian Welsh and Dave Rawlings track at the other end of the spectrum, just the exactness of their harmonies and their songwriting prowess and all that sort of stuff. So either Miss Ohio or Work It.
All right, okay. We'll pick one of those. No worries, all good. And track two, what is song you sing when you're on your own in the car or the shower?
I love Aretha Franklin. Rock steady, baby. That's what I feel now. So much swag. Love it.
Yeah, great one. That is a great choice. Fantastic one. Track three, what is your favourite cover version?
What Whitney Houston did to I Will Always Love You. Even Dolly was blown away by it. I think that's probably, you can't really, like, she blew the cover game out of the water.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was reading somewhere not that long ago, that soundtrack album is like one of the biggest selling albums of all time. Bodyguard soundtrack album.
Not surprised.
Because of that. Yeah, and there's some bangers on there as well.
Just like,
yeah.
We were alive at the same time as Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
And track four, Danielle, what is a song you wish you could play to your 18-year-old self?
I would actually play one of my daughter's songs to her. Either Because You Said So, which is her latest single, or That's Not Loving, which was her first single. And maybe I'd play That's Not Loving. It's such a concise snapshot of that space in a nervous system or in a relationship where you confuse love with people's accepting people's bad behavior, and you don't yet know that they're two different things. And she wrote that song when she was 16, and I still just go, how did you know that then? So I wish I knew what she knew then. When I was her age.
What sort of stuff were you actually listening to when you were 18?
When I was 18, I was first year uni, and I was like, it was the first time I'd had control of my own music listening, because I'd grown up in a household with so many strong listeners of music. And so I went deep into Jimi Hendrix, Van Morrison. What did I have? I had The Cream of Eric Clapton. Like that album, The Cream of Eric Clapton album, that is a crazy... In the white room with black curtains. I was listening to Joan Armatrading. I was re-listening to Joan Armatrading because I'd listened to it a lot with my sister. Who else was I listening? There was one more that I was really listening to all the time. Oh my God, what is her name? Pearl. Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just went into this really like old school, like time machine imprinting of these other things that I've tasted, but was just, I bought all these CDs because I just moved out to go to uni, and I listened to them on repeat.
Track five, if you were picking a song to let someone know you were romantically interested in them, what song would you put on your mixtape for that?
I had chosen, I think for me, the most romantic thing is dancing, whether it's like going hard on a dance floor or dancing slow or whatever. I love dancing so much. So it would be a song that I would want to dance to them to. And one of my favorite songs to dance to is Boogie on Reggae Woman. And that was Stevie Wonder song. I think it's both soft and deep.
Yeah.
And just the groove is it's so satisfying. So I'd probably go with that song.
Yeah. Great choice, mate. Great choice. That is a fantastic one. And finally, to round out your mixtape, what is like a deep cut, a B-side, an album track that you feel is underappreciated?
I'm actually going to give a local shout out to Australian artist Emily Lubitz here. She just released an album called Two Black Horses. I love Emily so much and I love her songwriting so much. I was lucky enough to do a musical project with her called We Two Thieves, and we released a whole album, and I love that. I still love that album and listen to it more than I listen to any of my other stuff. But the opening track on that, which is called Two Black Horses, the title track, is such an interesting, such an incredible collaboration between her and her partner, Harry Angus, who used to be in the Cat Empire, Harry James Angus. And I just love it. It's called Two Black Horses.
That track choice was specifically designed to introduce me to new music. That's why I put that track on there, because I'm such a nerd and I know 90% of tracks that people pick I already know. I was like, I've got to get something out of this. So I put that on there just so I could be introduced to new stuff.
Oh, yeah, check the album out. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah, for sure. Danielle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Promises is out now on all the streaming platforms, physical formats through mamakinspender.love. Tickets and everything else are there as well. And just shout out your socials so people can catch you on.
Mamakin Pics on Instagram, or Mamakin Spender on Instagram, or Dingo Spender. We're on TikTok under Mamakin Spender, and our Facebook is Mamakin Band. Mamakinspender.love for all those ways to buy the album and get us into the charts.
Yeah, okie dokie. If you're listening to this on the YouTube channel or the Mixcloud, there'll be links in the description down below to all of those places we just talked about. Thanks so much, Danielle. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your dedication and your devotion to the thing that you love. It makes a difference.
No problem at all. It is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, Danielle. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Mixtape podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go to the top of the page and rate it 5 stars, or give us a like or follow on social media at the Mixtape podcast and radio show. Don't forget, there's over 100 archive episodes just waiting to be discovered. And all you need to do is visit themixtapepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.